do that spiel again. Hello and welcome to the latest video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. We are looking ahead to Double Gameweek 36. My name is Joe, and joining me as ever to look at the goals and assists imminent table is Tom. Tom, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Joe. Did okay in game week 35, got 41 points, which was surprisingly a green arrow. It was a low-scoring week, wasn't it? But yeah, there's some great games yesterday. I had 21 goals, I think, in 3 games, and hopefully that will continue into Double Game Week 36.
Excellent. Welcome everyone in the live chat. A special welcome to all those people who said that they couldn't hear me, which is great. No, I wasn't on mute. A leader just come out my mic, so it wasn't coming out at all there. So I did unmute myself though. Thankfully. Lots of you, Brian, Alexander, Gershon, Ishan, Let's Talk Vinyl, Tudor, Parna, FPL Spartans, Mitch, Alex A, Paul H, and many more. I saw one comment earlier actually was saying that they'd had a god awful. I think it was from Luke. Had a god awful game week, and wishes as well. I too had an awful game week. In fact, I had my worst game week of the season, incredibly. But more of that a little bit later. Tom, should we have a look and see how we got on last week? Now this is good. This is the good bit. Our goals and assists imminent table are great predictors last week. So this is how we got on. This was good. So Calvert-Lewin, we trumped up. He didn't get a goal, but he did get an assist. Maddison got a goal. McAllister got a goal off some part of his body, and I'm not sure he meant to, but we'll take it. And Ben Rama also got a goal. And then blanks for Havertz, Rocker, Pereira, obviously he's injured, Anthony, and Fernandez, the Manchester United lads. So, Tom, looking at that, we spoke about Calvert-Lewin, and many people were saying, why are you talking about Calvert-Lewin? Well, this is why we're talking about Calvert-Lewin. He is a good differential. What's going on with Everton at the moment? They're suddenly good.
Came out of absolutely nowhere, that game and result, didn't it? But Calvert-Lewin, he got the assist for Doucouré's goal, and it was excellent turn. And he looked really sharp. He only had one shot in the game, but I think game state and the way that they raced into kind of like a 3-goal lead, I think that kind of affected that. But I think he makes such a difference to Everton. And we spoke about it last week and said game week 38 might be a good differential at home to Bournemouth. And I think a few more people might be considering that after last night's performance.
Yeah, definitely. We talked about him for game week 38. I mean, I think people are concentrating on double game week players, but as those that own, say, March, for example, like me, found out, basically it does pay to back these single game week differentials. They can really help. So perhaps they are players that we should be considering now over these double game week players, but something for us to consider. Maddison at Leicester, he was good. He was good and very, very honest in his post match comments about a sort of a lack of hunger from the team as in general, really. He did clarify that to say it wasn't a lack of hunger to win, it was just a lack of hunger in various elements of the pitch, like winning headers, those types of things. What do we make of Leicester? I mean, they got tough fixtures down and out, but Maddison is actually returning points. Is he worth considering?
Well, Leicester were appalling yesterday at Fulham, weren't they? But they've still got firepower. And we put Maddison in the differentials last week ahead of this match because I think under Dean Smith, with Vardy back in the team, they have looked like scoring in most of their games. So, I mean, Maddison was on penalties. He missed and he was off them. Vardy missed a penalty yesterday. Then he was back on penalties again. He got the assist as well. It's just very difficult with the fixtures to consider Maddison, I think, now. I think the time might have passed. They've got Liverpool, Newcastle and West Ham to finish the season. Yeah. But if Leicester go down, he'll end up at another Premier League team, and he's always going to be a good option for next season, I think, if he goes to a Newcastle or something like that. But yeah, he's obviously a very talented player, but I'm just not sure now's the right time for him.
I'm going to sort of skip over Havertz at the moment because that's one for sort of next week when Chelsea play twice. I'm also going to skip over McAllister because we'll come back to him because a double gaming plan. We want to see if he's Still on any of our Goals and Assists Imminent table. He won't be on the Goals Imminent table because he's already scored twice in the last 4 game weeks. So, in fact, the last 2 game weeks. So that knocks him off the table. So we have a limit there of just 1 goal for these tables. So McAllister, we'll skip over. Rocker, Pereira's out. Anthony as well. We've spoken about him before. Fernandez, he did blank again. That's annoying for owners like me. Not for want of trying. He always looks good. But it's just his positioning's not quite. I'd like to see him central behind Rashford a bit more. And he just seems to be out wide and just not where I want. I don't want him there. Is it a problem for Fernandez?
Well, he was on the left at West Ham, and Weghorst took up that role that you mentioned then behind Rashford. He had an early chance. I think he had 3 shots, but United just, I don't know if it's a fatigue issue. They've played a lot of games. I think they've played 57 games this year in total. I don't know whether it's catching up with them. I suppose the good news for Fernandez is that United don't play midweek this week. They've got a week to kind of rest and get ready for 36. They haven't had that since Christmas. They've had such a kind of a demanding schedule. Yeah, I'm completely the same though, Joe. I don't really want him out wide. I don't want him left, right. I kind of want him in the middle and behind the striker. So let's hope that happens. I don't think anybody's going to transfer him out now, given the fixtures.
No.
They've obviously got Wolves and they've got a good double, but he's looked good recently and he's not quite getting those returns to show for it. So let's hope they are kind of around the corner.
Yeah. Some Salah owners, not this week, but in game week 37, when Manchester United played twice, might be considering that switch. But that's a tough call, isn't it? Because Liverpool are at home to Villa that week. And, Salah's home record's great, whereas Fernandez plays twice. So that's going to be a decision for next week, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. I think I find it very hard to take out Salah, though. Like you just mentioned then, I mean, he's scored in, eight consecutive games at Anfield, I think. So, I personally wouldn't want to be making that decision. But we've got another round of fixtures. Let's kind of have a look how they fare this weekend, and then we can maybe answer those questions next week if people are still considering it.
We mentioned Ben Rama as well. I can't remember his expected goal, his XG for this was 0.0 something or other. It was, well, no, I wouldn't hesitate to say lucky, as in he's a good player. But I think any of his owners that are around would have been lucky to get that goal. So Ben Rama is not someone we're going to be considering, is he?
No, it's a bit of a De Gea howler, wasn't it, at the weekend? But he did look really good. He played really well. West Ham did. But we've always said minutes is a bit of a problem with Ben Rama, and they've got they're in Europa Conference League semi-final, actually, the side of the next game week. So no reason to look there.
Okay, let's move on to see how we did on the Assists Imminent table. Spoiler, even better. Get all these assists here. And I'll put a cheeky goal in as well from McAllister because he was on the Assists Imminent table as well. Trippier let us down again. How many blanks is this in a row for Trippier? Dozen?
I don't know how many blanks. I think over his last 14 matches, he's averaging 2.6 points per match. I think he's only had 2 returns in that time, which doesn't make for great reading. I think people are going to hold him for this double. But I think people who are considering captaincy are probably looking elsewhere now.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I've ever considered him for captaincy, but he's certainly ditchable. I mean, they've got a double game, but after that, he's very, very ditchable. McAllister got his goal, but not an assist, so perhaps he'll still be on the Assists Imminent table. We'll come to him a bit later. James obviously out. I don't think he's going to play again this season. It looks that way, so we can skip over him. These are the 2 good ones, though. I think we mentioned last week we'll get smug points for when these ultra differentials come in. So we've got 4 in a row here. Iwobi at Everton, Christie at Bournemouth, Kante at Chelsea, and Porro at Tottenham, who we have spoken about for the last couple of weeks, but Porro's assist was imminent. So, I mean, people aren't going to go for these, but anyone who listened to us and thought, you know what, those 2 blokes talking about Christie at Bournemouth and Iwobi at Everton, I might get some return. These are cheap returns as well. These are the sorts of players we probably are going to need to climb up the rankings, aren't we? But possibly not any of these. Maybe Porro. Porro could be okay.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned him a bit, haven't we? And Mason changed system at the weekend. He played this kind of hybrid kind of formation where Emerson Royale was playing as well, and he was this right-sided centre half, but he was playing right back as well, and it just gave Porro that more freedom. And Porro was top in that match for so many stats, whether it be crosses, chances created, final third touches, shots. He was top for everything, and he was on all of the set pieces as well. Are we going to go for a Spurs player now? What, they've got Villa, Brentford, Leeds? Maybe not, but if you are, I think Kane and Porro look like the two at Spurs if you want to go down that route.
Definitely. Well, I'm clinging on to my Kane at the expense of Salah,
Yeah.
so I'm 2 points down on that, so I don't mind.
Yeah.
But I'm £2 million up. Depends how I spend that money though. I just mentioned Traore at Bournemouth. I mean, he's always here because of his last 4 matches, but he's not really getting the game time for us. And Eze at Crystal Palace, he's probably always going to be on this table until he gets his assists because he's always looking good. But once again, we're all going to ignore Eze, aren't we?
Yeah, they've got good fixtures though, Palace. They've got Bournemouth, Fulham, and Forest next. So again, if you're one of those people who doesn't necessarily get drawn into the double game week, or if you've already got triple Newcastle, triple Brighton, Palace are quite a good team to look at, and that includes Eze and Olise and Zaha's back as well now. Wouldn't surprise me if he gets a return in the next week or two.
Yeah, definitely. I think for many, it could be I don't know, something like a game week 38 differential punt, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at our current Goals Imminent table. So these are the ones ahead of this double game week. And just to explain, because we've got the Assists Imminent table, you've got to get 7 chances or more. But if you score more than a goal, if you get more than an assist, you're off the table. And if your expected stats aren't very good, you go off the table as well. And that's the same principle with the Goals Imminent table. So I'll put it up here, and you've got to get 10 shots. You've got to impress the expected goal delta people, which is what you should have got compared to what you actually got. And if you score more than a goal, then you're off the table. And if you don't meet those stats, you're off the table as well. And if you keep doing the stats and don't get the goals, you just stay here forever. And speaking of which, Maddison, he's been here for a couple of weeks now. He did score last time out, but as you said, we've spoken about him, four big chances missed, 5 chances in total. He has scored. Second week on the table. He's underperforming his expected goal delta. He should have scored 2.5 more goals than he has. So getting on for 3-4 goals. 8 shots inside the box, 16 shots in total. But you've spoken about him before. It doesn't matter what he does. It's the rest of them, isn't it? Leicester are just bad fixtures, bad team. They're just no go, aren't they?
Yeah, they needed a reaction yesterday against Fulham, and they needed to get something from that game that didn't. And now they're playing a Liverpool side at home, and you fear for them in that match because they've got to go for it. They need 3 points, but yeah, Alexander and Arnold and Salah and players like that could have really big game weeks, I think. So yeah, no real reason to look at him, but it's not really through Maddison's fault. In the past couple of weeks, he's done okay.
Next up is Matoma. We haven't mentioned him. We mentioned a lot other Brighton players. 5.6 million. He's had 3 big chances. He's missed them all. No goals in the last four matches. He's had 3 shots on target. His expected goal data, he should have got 1 to 2 goals over this period. First week on this table, and he's had 9 shots, close range efforts from his 11 shots. He's looked lively. In Manchester United, I would say he looked greedy, which you can look at that in a good or bad way. He should have passed at least 2 or 3 times when he didn't. But nevertheless, you want greedy players because you want them to score goals. And we know he's got the pedigree to do that. He's rarely on this table, and when he is, he drops off because he scores. So Matoma, he's not in your team at the moment. So are you tempted by Matoma?
Yeah, I think so. He's been a player which I've owned McAllister and Marsh from Brighton, and you're always considering making that sideways switch to Matoma. And I've held off. I mean, I think he's blanked 6 times in a row now. But he's still getting into dangerous positions. He still looks lively. I mean, have you got any concerns as a Brighton fan, Joe, or are you
Well, I mean,
you're happy to hold him?
In general, with the team, I don't have concerns about him. He always looks lively. As I said, there's two ways of looking at it. Really, he looked at Manchester United very, very selfish, too selfish. There was one particular move. Was it to Undav? I can't remember. Or it could have been Welbeck, whoever was the striker, and he just should have passed it. He shot from a difficult angle, and I think it was Undav, and he just had an open goal, and he just didn't pass it, and that was really frustrating. But then again, he has that other move in his locker where he comes down the wing, and then will he keep going to the touchline and cut through, or will he pass, or will he cut through before he gets to the penalty box and go through the centre? You don't know, and that's why he's got a degree in dribbling, believe it or not. So. Players don't know what to do with him. He's still got that in his locker, so he's still more than capable, and he could have come away with returns against Everton. I think he's good. The other thing, if you're in the top 10k or looking for what engaged managers are doing, he's getting on for nearly 9. He's in nearly 9 out of 10 teams. Yeah. So if he does score and you don't have him, that's a big drop. Nevertheless, he's not that differential you need.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at too, Joe. I mean, we'll get onto my team a bit later. But yeah, I think his ownership is about 86% in the top 100k. And so I was, do I want to go down that route? I'm 40k overall, around about that. So, or do I want to go for somebody a bit different? I mean, for example, Pascal Gross's ownership is under 1% in that price bracket. Yeah. So it's just which route you want to go. How risky do you want to play it? You rank? Are you happy with it? Do you want to kind of hold rank, or do you want to push on? And we'll chat about my moves a bit later. But I'm not definitely bringing in Matoma, although he is an option.
Yeah, no. So Matoma versus Gross is quite a good one for anyone who don't know. And that could be the same principle for any people looking to replace March and looking to get another Brighton player. Gross is once again, he's got pros and cons. Pros is that he's as nailed on as you can get when he's fit. He's superhuman physically as well, so he's not going to get subbed off. He's very versatile, and this is the bad bit from FPL. So he can play defensive midfield, he can play attacking midfield, play right back. Whoever's not around, he will cover for them. But he is also on set pieces and not penalties. He's second in line for penalties by McAllister, but he's on corners as well. So there is you can get returns then. As you said, it's 0.0 something % ownership. You get 100% of his points into your team. None of your rivals will have him. So that is something to consider, whether you're that type of manager or you're a consolidated type manager. Calvert-Lewin's next. We mentioned him. He's still here. He didn't get his goal, but he got an assist. Got a goal last time out. 2 big chances, missed one. Got his goal over the last 4, 6 shots on target, 9 inside the box, 12 in total. Should have scored another 1 to 2 goals. We spoken about him. Not much more else we can say. Let's go to the next guy, Willock. Now, I saw that Gold FPL was in the chat. He's been championing Willock for a couple of weeks, and we have indeed on this video. And he is there, 4.7 million. Big chance. He's missed it. 3 shots on target. First week on this table. He's not scored in the last 4, but he should have scored at least a goal. 7 shots inside the box, 12 shots in total. If you aren't tripled up on Newcastle and you own March, which that's going to be some people, Willock could be a good move, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I really like him. We put him in the differentials a few weeks ago. He's appeared on these tables numerous times.
Yeah.
I think he gets into good attacking positions. He gets close to the striker. I've seen a lot of questions, Willock or Joelinton. Now, I think I prefer Willock, actually. I think that they'll both be playing in central midfield. I don't see Joelinton playing out wide. Because I think there's more competition in that left wing spot now, with Isak obviously played there and St. Maximan's back, Anthony Gordon's there. But I just think that Willock, given the price saving that you'll get on it, it's £1.3 million difference. I think he gets some good chances, Willock. Whenever I watch him, he looks lively. Yeah. And I think that, yeah, Longstaff's out at the moment, so they're probably both going to play. But yeah, I think Willock looks like a good punt for double game week 36.
Good stuff. Next up, remember this guy been banned for like ever, but he's back. I think this is. I'm pretty certain he's done his time now.
Yes.
Mitrovic, big chance. He's missed it. He's had this is his last 4 matches he has played, which is a long time ago. He had 3 shots on target, 10 shots inside the box, 12 shots in total, and he should have scored at least a goal there. He wasn't in great form before he got his ban. But Fulham have been quite surprisingly good. Willian and all are very creative. So it does look geared up for a Mitrovic return at the end of the season. One of those punts could be going for a differential. This is the guy, Mitrovic, 6.6 million. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it could be good. I mean, he plays Southampton next, who just conceded 4 at Forest last night, who were pretty much down, I think. So, yeah, Fulham have been creating lots of chances, lots of good play, even without Pereira and Mitrovic there. They've got Villian and Harry Wilson as well, who's looked good. Vinicius scored yesterday, and obviously that's the position Mitrovic will be expected to take up. So, yeah, I don't dislike that. Probably if you look at the top 5-6 strikers to own right now he's back. He's probably in that group, to be fair. So.
Next up, Buendia at Villa. I mean, your team, Villa, no big chances, so nothing to miss there, but a couple of shots on target, and he's had 10 shots. But the expected goal delta, this is why he's crept onto this table, is he should have got just under a goal. Should have got a goal, really, 0.89 of a goal, so that's pretty much a goal. But it's Villa. We spoke about him last week. Villa, you were saying that they sort of gone a bit off the boil as an attacking unit. So Buendia is just going to have to sketch over him, aren't we?
I think so, yeah. We did talk about it, and there's just been signs in the past 2 or 3 games. It's not quite clicking up front, and it's affecting all of our attacking players, including Ollie Watkins. And I think a lot of people held on to him for that Wolves game. He was really poor, and now I think it's the obvious move now to a Newcastle forward this week. And we probably won't be looking at Villa assets again, given the fixtures. It'll probably be next year when they come back onto the radar. But yeah, it's loads of better options than Buendia in midfield at that price point now, I think.
Okay, next up, Rashford. Now, I mean, he has been a good player for arguably in the FPL team of the season. Got a double coming up in game week 37, 7.3 million. He's had 4 big chances, missed 3 of them. He's scored in the last 4, but he should have scored probably another goal. He's had 8 shots on target, 10 shots inside the box, 18 shots in total. It's that 8 shots on target and 10. So, well over half of his shots are from close range. And getting on for half are actually on target as well. That's what you want to see from a striker like that. And what is going on at Manchester United at the moment? Because I was expecting loads of returns already from him. I mean, he's a hold now, but some people will be looking to buy him as well. Should they be buying him based on form, or are they just buying him because he's just well owned?
Well, he's been getting lots of shots. He looks like the player most likely to score at United. He's still getting in some quite dangerous positions, I think. So yeah, I think I probably would still sign him if I didn't own him. But you want United, United have just looked tired over the past couple of games, I think. And I think hopefully having this week off can kind of reinvigorate them a bit. But Rashford, I wouldn't personally want to go into that double game week without him. No. So if you don't own him, I still think he's a good player to bring in.
And also, Jesus, once again, another player. Anytime he's on this table, he hops off because he scores. He's had last 4 matches, just the 1 goal, but he's had 3 big chances, missed 2 of them. He's had 3 shots on target, 11 shots in total, all of them from close range. He should have scored half a goal more. So not the expected stats, people. That aren't raving about him, but he has crept on this table. And I've heard talk as mutterings of some people are looking to perhaps get him in for game week 38 when Arsenal are at home. They may have secured the title, they may have just lost out on the title, but they'll be looking to give their fans a really good send off to this very exceptional season for them. Jesus, he looks primed to get in, doesn't he? Especially being on this table.
Yeah, he looks good, Joe. And they've got good fixtures as well after Brighton. They've got Forest before Wolves in 38. So I think if you want to bring him in, 37 is probably the time, even though they don't double. I think you'd probably want that Forest game. But yeah, he looks good. But you could say that about quite a few Arsenal players, Martinelli, Odegaard.
Yeah.
They all look like good signings for the run in, providing Arsenal have got something to play for, and they're still clinging on to the title right, or still kind of hanging in aren't they? So while they've still got something to play for, they're good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Arsenal. I've got it penciled in my plan. It just says game week 38, Arsenal. I don't know how. I don't know whether I'll have 2 transfers or 1. I don't know if I'll have the money for whoever. But I've just written the word Arsenal down for game week 38 because they're at home at the last game.
Makes sense.
Let's move on to the Assists Imminent table. These are those who are due an assist for game week 36. Trippier. Trippier. Every week we've been mentioning him, and he's always on here. I think what's telling about him is that it's a hell of a lot of chances created. 15, 33 corners, 15 successful crosses. And he's hitting all of those metrics, but the expected assists, so the expected stats, don't like him. So with all of those, he should have only got just over 1.5 assists over his last 4 matches. This is 4 matches with 33 corners, 15 chances created. I mean, that's his problem at the moment. With this volume, he's just not delivering from us. What was that stat you gave? 2.6 points a game
per match across his last 14 games. Yeah, he was really unlucky at the weekend with an assist. He put I think it was a free kick. Shah missed a big chance. But it just feels like we've been saying this for quite a while, doesn't it? He created another 4 chances in that match, but gets nothing from it. But again, I think if you own him, you just got to hold him through this double. But if he blanks in these 2 games, and it wouldn't surprise me if he did, because I think going to Leeds in the first game, Sam Allardyce's first home match in charge, then playing a Brighton team who score in most games, he might get an assist in maybe one of these 2, but it wouldn't surprise me if he blanked in both again. And then they've got Leicester, but if you need money and he blanks in these 2 and Newcastle don't look great, I think some people might consider taking him out.
Next up, McAllister. So we've been mentioning him a lot, but not in detail, because we want to see if he's on these tables. He's not on the Goals Imminent table because he's already arrived. His goals arrived, but he is still on the Assists Imminent table. He's created 8 chances, 5 corners he's taken. He scored a couple of goals, 2 successful crosses. Second week on the table here, second to Trippier. Yeah, I mean, if you've got March, I mean, this looks like, if you're not going to get a Newcastle player, if you're going to get another Brighton player, I can see there's going to be a huge shift. March's effective ownership is about 6 out of 10 managers in the top 10k, and that's going to go down, and they're going to move to this guy who's about 2 in every 10, 1 in every 5 managers. So it's going to go up and up and up. So he's going to be really well owned, isn't he?
Yeah, he's been I suppose he's been the differential Brighton midfielder out of those 3, hasn't he, for a while now? I've owned him. Went through a bit of a rocky patch, but then delivered in the last 2 games. The concern is he plays deeper, but he still gets a lot of shots off. But you were saying, Joe, he moved into a more advanced role after the break, didn't he, yesterday? And that's where we really want him.
Yeah, he did do. So when more attacking players are taken off, they tend to be younger ones at the moment. McAllister has been moving up, especially if they're chasing the game like that. But yeah, he can play. I thought, he's still on penalties. He's still getting in attacking positions. He's still got the assist potential. He's still got the goal scoring potential. I, like an idiot, took him out of my team when I saw he was benched in favour of March. And so that move 2 weeks ago has cost me 18 points. But that is, I haven't made too many moves like that this season, but there's quite a few of us like that who saw that and thought, I'll get March. He's further up, and March has looked great when he came on until he got his hamstring twanked. So McAllister, he's a great option. He's on Brighton have got, it's just the sheer volume of fixtures as well.
Yes, I get why people, after the results that recently, that people might be not looking at them quite the same way they did a few weeks back, but it's because they've got back-to-back double game weeks. You know, going in with two midfielders, they're still good picks. They still look, they created a lot of chances, albeit once they were quite far, heavily down against Everton. Yeah. But McAllister hit the bar as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
Could have got a brace, to be honest. Good option.
Yeah, he had immediately after the semi-final defeat to Manchester United, McAllister did look amongst the players who was tired, and Zerbi did mention him, but I haven't seen any evidence of him looking tired so far. No. I think he's looked great, and so him and Casado, the break has done them a world of good, I think. But yeah, Brighton as a team, I don't know, it could just be all catching up on them, but I expect to see, as you said, I expect to see a very strong lineup in the next fixture. So Fernandez, Fernandez next. He's still here. So we talked about him already. 15 chances created, 13 corners. These are great. These are Trippier level stats. He should have got at least 0.64 of an assist, but he has scored 3 successful crosses. Yeah, I mean he still looked good, hasn't he? But it's just his positioning. We've spoken about that though. Martinelli at Arsenal, 6.7 million, 8 chances created, 5 corners. Should have got just over half an assist to go with his goal. 2 successful crosses. First week on the table so far, and he has got an assist actually, so he should have got 0.58 more than that assist. So half an assist more. Yeah, I mean, in my head, he's the go-to Arsenal guy to get. He always looks the most threatening, but yes, Odegaard is getting the points from a more central role.
Yeah, they both scored 15 league goals, I think, now. Odegaard's been on a bit of a hot streak recently, hasn't he? But Martinelli looked good at the weekend. I thought he gave Trippier a really hard time. I think he hit the post as well, actually. And he looks good with Jesus in the team, doesn't he? He had that blip when Nketiah was starting, when he wasn't quite making that impact. But as soon as Jesus comes back in, he looks good. I still think I probably would go Martinelli over Odegaard. I still think that he's got a bit more goal threat from closer range, Martinelli. So, I mean, his ownership, I think, is probably down to about 20% in the top 100k now. So that might be an opportunity. Not owned by loads of people in 37.
I'll sketch over some of the others. Traore, we've spoken about. He's just not getting the game time for Bournemouth. March is going to be, well, at best, he'll play again at some point this season, but he might not. I mean, although they've got loads of fixtures to go, 2 double game weeks, and then the final game week. Brighton, we've only got 2 or 3 weeks left, and if he's got a hamstring injury, that's it. That's the end of March for this season. But nevertheless, he's 10 chances created, 8 corners, 3 successful crosses. Should have got more than his assist that he has got. Eze, we've mentioned next. He's still here. 8 chances created, 4 corners. So you've spoken about Eze already being the one. A sort of a differential with Crystal Palace's good fixtures. Anthony's next. Manchester United's. We're probably not going there on Manchester United's form at the moment because Rashford and Fernandez would be the attacking ones to get. Anthony's not going to get a look in. If anyone did want to get a third Manchester United, maybe they don't have a defender, but they want to get another attacker, and they don't fancy Fernandez, can't afford him. Who would be the other attacker to get for Manchester United?
It probably is Anthony. There's always a slight worry with minutes because Sancho's there. Martial, I just don't trust that he's going to get regular starts with Weghorst as well. Weghorst started at the weekend. But yeah, it's definitely Rashford and Fernandez, those 2 you want. If you're really chasing, then you could go for somebody like Anthony, but he flatters to deceive a lot of the time. Takes a lot of shots, but not somebody that getting 3 United midfielders into your squad's quite a tough ask at the moment. So Rashford and Fernandez would be my picks.
And finally, Ramsey from your team, Villa, 5.2 million. I mean, you mentioned about the Villa sort of gone off the boil a bit, but he has created 7 chances. But it's expected, he's just not hitting the sort of expected, only just hitting the expected assist delta. But 0.24 of an assist is not great, really. So this probably underlines what you were saying. It's got they're good players, but they just don't have the fixtures or the form at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. We've got Tottenham, Liverpool, and Brighton still to come. Ramsey was a player we tipped a few weeks ago on the site, but that was when the fixtures were really kind, and they're just not there now. It looks like the season is petering out a little bit for us. I still hope we can get into Europe, but yeah, not quite looking as positive it was a couple of weeks ago.
Well, nor is it for Brighton at the moment.
Yeah.
They might just about squeak in, but I think well they had to, from their last 8 matches, they need to get 6 points, and you would imagine 3 of those would have been against Everton, so that's that down. I don't think we're going to get too much against Arsenal, City, Newcastle, but you never know. We're going to move on to our teams. So before I come to your team, Tom, just a reminder to those in the live chat, a couple of things. Do press that like button. Do subscribe as well if you're not already, and also do have a think of some questions here. So put your questions in the live chat as Tom and myself talk about our teams, what we're going to be doing for game week 36, and remember, put a question mark on them so I can easily see your questions there. So let's come up with your team first, Tom. I'll put the fixtures up next to a picture of your team as well. So we can see there that Newcastle and Brighton play each other twice. They play each other at the end of the game week, and Brighton also play Arsenal, whereas Newcastle have Leeds away, and as well as obviously that Brighton fixture. So run through your team then. Who have you got, and what are your plans, and how many transfers you got left, and who you're captaining, and so forth?
Yes. So the team, I've currently got Raya in goal. 3 defenders, Alexander-Arnold, and then double Newcastle, Botman and Trippier. 5 across the middle, Salah, Marsh, who I will be replacing, Fernandes, McAllister and Rashford. And then up front, I've got Haaland and Watkins. And on the bench, I've got Kepa, Alex Moreno, and Keane, who has now lost his place, and Greenwood, which is a bit of a dead spot, really. So not quite as much bench depth as certainly your team, which we'll come on to, Joe. But I'm ranked at about 40k. I've got 2 free transfers, and I've got 0.8 million in the bank. So the obvious moves, which I'm sure most people looking at it will probably suggest, is to take out Solly Marsh and Ollie Watkins, bring in a new midfielder, potentially Mitoma or Gross if I want to go down that slightly differential route, and also a Newcastle forward, which I think will be Isak, and then I'll captain him as well. Not so keen on a Brighton defender this week. I don't think I haven't got Estupiñán, as you can see. I haven't got Steele, but I don't think the fixtures are quite there this week to prioritise a Brighton defender. So I'll probably just go with 2 Brighton players and the 2 midfielders.
Okay. Okay, Watkins, you could get Isak or Wilson. You prefer Isak, but we're going to have a captaincy video doing with Mark in a couple of days, so do watch out for that. But for your point of view, how much does effective ownership come into it, and sort of where you are in the rankings and where you want to go? So, for example, if you were slightly placed differently in the rankings, I don't know, 200,000 or something, would you think, I'm just going to, what the hell, I'm going to go for Wilson because he looks the better for points, but will he get the minutes?
Yeah, I mean, he was through the middle. They played together for the first time at the weekend, which I'm sure most people are aware of. Isak went onto the left wing, where he had to do quite a bit of tracking back, but he did hit the post. And then with about 12, 13 minutes to go, Wilson withdrawn, and then Isak went through the middle, which I suppose is quite encouraging if you're owner that he was the one staying on, he was the one playing 90 minutes. I'm not sure if we're going to see that replicated this week against Leeds, where they both start. It could happen, but I thought out of possession, when you play those 2 players, I thought Burn looked quite isolated against Saka at the weekend. It wouldn't surprise me if St. Maximin comes into that left wing spot, or even somebody like Gordon, something like that. So fortunately, we might get a team news leak on Saturday, given that Newcastle Leeds is the first game up. That might dictate a lot of our moves, I suppose. If we find out that Wilson's starting and Isak's on the bench, which I don't necessarily think will happen, that is then a decision which people will have to make. But I just think if I had to pick somebody to start to these two games, it may be one each. But if I had to pick one to start to, I think it would be Isak. Given the fact we're going into like a 3-game week. For Newcastle, which traditionally will cause a player like Wilson a few issues. The timing's quite good. They play on Saturday, then on Thursday, and then I don't think they play till the Monday. So it's actually good, but I mean, I don't see Wilson starting all 3 of those games. And Isak maybe will sit out 1-2, but I just think that he's the more likely to play 90 minutes and get the most minutes in that double game week. And as I'm looking at captaining that player, that's important.
So you don't. I mean, you've got the armband on McAllister at the moment. So whether or not you get a Newcastle player, Isak or Wilson, you definitely prefer Newcastle captain over a Brighton one. Is that mainly because of the fixtures, I guess?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think the fixtures are that easy for Newcastle. I don't think Leeds will be an easy game for them in Allardyce's first match at Ellen Road. I think the atmosphere is going to be pretty good up there, and I think that they'll get behind the team. And I don't see Newcastle going there and scoring 3 or 4 goals or anything like that. But yeah, I do think that the Brighton fixtures, away at Arsenal, away at Newcastle, they're tough fixtures, aren't they?
Yeah.
Maybe that will suit them. Maybe that will give them more space to play into on the break. But possibly good for somebody like Mitoma. But yeah, I do think I prefer a Newcastle captain for this one. The fact that they're they're prior to that Arsenal game, they've been in a pretty good moment. They've been scoring a lot of goals, haven't they?
Okay. And just looking ahead a bit, so say you do that move, march to a Brighton midfielder, Mitoma possibly, and then Watkins to Isak. What is your penciled in moves for game week 37 or indeed 38?
Probably a defender move in 37 because I'll have Alexander-Arnold at home to Villa. I'll have Trippier at home to Leicester. Will I want to double up on that Newcastle backline against Leicester? Maybe, but Leicester, like we said earlier, they've got a bit of firepower. Alex Moreno plays Liverpool away. That's not a fixture I want to play with. And Michael Keane's lost his place, so I might have to prioritise a defender move. And you're probably going to look to the doubles, aren't you? You're probably going to look at Man City or Man United defender, something like that.
Looks in your position. I mean, you've only got 2 of your 3 Manchester United slots, so Luke Shaw looks in your team, game week 37.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. That's the obvious move, isn't it? I could go for a goalie, but I mean, this week, going back to my team this week, I've got Raya and Kepa. I'd be interested in what the chat thinks. I mean, who would you start this week? Because Kepa at home against the Forest side, but Forest have actually looked pretty good recently going forward. They've got Gibbs White, they've got Johnson, they've got players that can hurt you on the break. Raya plays a West Ham side who have got European semi-finals either side of this, and Brentford are traditionally pretty good at home. Now I've currently got Raya in, but I'd be interested, and you, Joe, as well. I mean, who do you think you would play out of those two?
First of all, I will say about West Ham in Europe, we said exactly the same thing before they played Bournemouth, was it?
Yeah, I think it was, and they went and beat them 4-1 or 4-0, wasn't it?
They beat them. They humiliated them, and so this was a tired West Ham. Brentford are different at home to Bournemouth, and they a better defence. I also think Tony will score because it's 1 in, 1 out for him. He didn't score last time out, so he will this time. So that means there'll be more attacking, so that West Ham will have less of the ball. I think I would personally go for Kepa myself.
Yeah,
just because
he has been in and out.
Because Kepa's every time I've played him, and I would play him in this fixture over Raya, he's tended to do well for me. And because when it comes down to it, Nottingham Forest, yes, they have found more form, but still over the course of the season away, they haven't been very good, and Kepa has been good. So, and there might be something going on at Chelsea in terms of a bit of shoring up there. They've had in terms of their injuries, they sort of know where they are now. They know that they can't play James. They know that they can't play the likes of Cucurella or whoever. So there's more of a solidity to them now in a weird way. They haven't got the options that their esteemed owner thinks that they need.
Yeah, and Badia Shield came in at the weekend, and I think I don't know why he was dropped in the first place. Chilwell's out now, and Correa, so they might be playing Hall at left back.
Yeah.
Don't know, maybe a Chelsea fan in the chat knows more than me about it, but that's who I'd predict maybe. But yeah, maybe this is the game that they finally get that clean sheet in that first home win under Frank Lampard. So that's a decision which I'll probably make.
Okay.
In a panic state 5 minutes before deadline, trying to transfer an Isak or Wilson.
The chat is a little divided on this. I mean, which indicates it's quite a tricky. That they are sort of much of a muchness in a way. Both get save points. Both got home fixtures. Both got pluses and minuses in terms of their own form and indeed their opposition. Wayne Robson says Raya. Mahomey says Raya. Mate said Raya. Chelsea is trash, he says. Wayne Robinson talks about West Ham having Europe, but we said that before they hammered Bournemouth. Richard and Neil says Kepa though, and Garrick says Kepa will get save points and possibly a fortunate clean sheet. Meanwhile, Wayne and Vasilis reiterate the Raya pick there. So, more saying Raya than not.
Yeah, I suppose that reflects my indecision, though, a little bit. The fact that it is split. It's not like there's an overwhelming favourite there. So, I'm going to think about that one a little bit more and make a late decision on that. But, yeah, transfers this week. Yeah, we'll be looking at Marsh and Watkins to Matoma or Gross and probably Isak if we get that team news that he's going to start on Saturday morning.
Just a reminder to people to get your questions in the live chat. I haven't seen too many at the moment, so do get those while I chat about my team. So, here's my team. Now, I've done something I never do, but I have done. I haven't needed money this season. I've suddenly found myself in need of money. I don't know, it hasn't happened to me. There's so many cheap options. I found myself in the moves I needed to make with 0.2, I think, in the bank. As of last night, and all the players I wanted to get in and all the players I wanted to remove, were going down and will go down this week, whether they did last night or not. They will go down this week, and all the players I want to get in will go up this week. So I would be locked out of those moves, so I'd have to look elsewhere. Yes, there are always other options, and you can go a bit cheaper, and chances are they would probably do me better. But just got a few things on this week, and I just quite like the idea of doing that, and then I'll just leave it. I don't have to look at my team again. I'm just going to ignore, and I don't have to worry about Saturday morning about Isak's going to start, because that's got me in trouble before with the March and McAllister move. So I prefer no information this week. I'm just going to leave it.
If worst case scenario, Isak is on the bench, he's probably going to get a start in midweek anyway.
Yeah. And I know he's going to come on. So I know he's going to get 20 minutes, 30 minutes against tired, lackluster Leeds legs for a bit of alliteration. So anyway, here's my team. I have 6 double game weekers so far. So I've used my 2 free transfers. I'm just going to leave this because I've got a bench to cover any injuries. If I find out there's injuries, I'm not willing injuries, but I'm more than happy for these guys to come in. Please do. So I've got a 3-4-3. Steele in goal, plays Arsenal and Newcastle. I do think if anyone asks in the questions, I do think he'll keep his place. Yes, he did get an own goal, but Lewis Dunk was probably more at fault for that defeat, and he's not going to go anywhere, so I don't see why Steele would. I've got Trippier and Botman, and I've got Alexander Arnold. I've seen him on some benches, and I'm not benching Alexander Arnold against Leicester. That's just not going to happen. I've got new in. The injured March is out for the non-injured McAllister, who is currently my vice captain. I've got Matoma already. I've got Rashford and Fernandes already. I also got Isak in, who will be my captain. I prefer Newcastle's fixtures to Brighton's this week, but I do think McAllister is a good option as well, because just on penalties. Even if he's defensive midfielder, gets a couple of shots all game from long range, he might get a penalty. So that's what you want, points. I've got Haaland against Everton. I've got Harry Kane against Aston Villa. And on my bench, I've got Kepa. I've got Grealish. I've got Shaw. I've got Henry at who's playing West Ham for Brentford. So yeah, I mean, issues here, benching dilemmas. Wayne has pointed out, the player I don't have is Salah, but so far I've got Kane. So Kane's keeping pace with Salah, and I prefer Kane for the rest of the season. No one else can get Kane, especially if we've got Greenwood. And I think next week a fair few people are going to ditch Salah for either De Bruyne or Fernandes. So I think of it as a block for the season there. So to answer that point raised by Wayne. But yes, it is true. Yes, Salah against Leicester does look quite good. That's why I'm keeping Alexander-Arnold. So yeah, issues here are really, I suppose, captaincy. I think I'm settled on Isak over McAllister.
Yeah.
But it's the benching of Grealish away to Everton and Luke Shaw at home to Wolves. I mean, that's crazy. But who on earth would I take out for Grealish and Shaw?
Yeah, I mean, it scares the life out of me, that bench, because you've got three players there who have got great fixtures, but I wouldn't start them over anybody in your team, Joe. You've got to prioritise the double game week players. So like Botman over Shaw, Steele over Kepa.
Yeah.
Grealish can't get in and anybody. You might get, will Grealish play at the weekend? I think he probably will, having been rested this last weekend. But there is those Real Madrid matches either side. So no, I think you've made your 2 transfers. You're really well set up. Strong bench to cover off. If there is any unfortunate news in the press conferences later this week, you've got a strong bench to cope with it. So game week 37, Joe, what are you looking at beyond that then to capitalise on another double?
I'm looking at one of 2 options. One is save, and people would think that's a bit weird ahead of a double game week, but I've really got nowhere else to go because of the double game week teams. I don't want any more Chelsea than Kepa, and I don't even know if I'm going to play Kepa in game week 37 because I've got Steele. I've got Rashford, Fernandes, and Shaw. I've got Haaland and Grealish, and I've got the 3 and the other 2 Brighton players, McAllister and Matoma. I've got Harry Kane's not going on my bench. I mean, I can bench Jack Grealish reluctantly, but there's no way I'm benching Harry Kane.
No.
And so currently with this setup here for game week 37, I would have to play Grealish and Shaw. I wouldn't play Botman, and I would be benching Isaac.
Yeah.
So a reluctant benching again, but prioritising the double. So I'll have 8, 9. I think Trippier and Kane and Haaland. So I'll have 8 double game weekers.
Yes.
Haaland and Kane can't be benched, in my opinion. And so that leaves Trippier. So the only thing I can do would be Trippier. I can't get a Manchester United player. I can't get a Brighton player. It would be a Man City defender. Am I actually going to get a double game week out of a Man City defender? I don't think I will. So I can't see what else I can do apart from save.
Yeah, and they've got Chelsea, Brighton in the double game week, I think, haven't they, Man City? So the Chelsea game's obviously a good fixture, but Brighton will be tough. Yeah. And it would be nice to go into 38 with 2 free transfers, because that is a game week which traditionally has served up more goals. And depending on where, you're ranked really highly now, aren't you, Joe? Where are you?
My last game week, I got 31 points. It was my worst game week of the season in game week rank ways. And I dipped from 6,500 to 8,500. So, I will take that. I prefer not to, but I am in danger of slipping out the top 10k. I don't need a stellar game week. I need a good game week. I need a green arrow.
Yes,
and I need green arrows for the rest of the season, and I'm well set up for both these doubles, so it won't be through lack of planning. And as you said, 2 free transfers game week 38. Then we'll get team news. We'll find out we'll get leaks, and I've written in my notes here one word: Arsenal. Game week 38. I don't have any Arsenal. They're at home to Wolves, their last home game of a great season. I want Arsenal. I want Arsenal players. I don't know who would make way. Perhaps injuries would dictate that. And I don't know which Arsenal to get. Martinelli, Odegaard, Jesus, maybe a defender.
You could probably lose. You could probably lose a Brighton midfielder in 38. Maybe they go away to Villa, which isn't a bad fixture, but you could look to do a Mitoma or McAllister to Odegaard or something if you've got a bit of money in the bank, or a Martinelli.
I mean, I'm not sure I need two Brighton midfielders, for example, and Trippier can be downgraded to say White, and then that could be enough to say Martinelli and White or something like that. That might be.
Yeah, and you have got Kane as well, because people say, you haven't got Salah, which they play Southampton in 38. Okay, that's a really good fixture, which you're missing out on for Salah, but you've got Kane who goes to Leeds, which is an equally good fixture. So that could be. It depends where you rank, doesn't it? If you're 11k and you're looking to get into the top, you might be willing to make a couple more differential punts then, I suppose. Whereas if you're 6-7k, you might just be thinking, well, I'll cover off some of the more popular options. So
I mean, Garrick in the live chat's pointed out that Isak plays Leicester next game week, and I'd be benching him. Well, Garrick, I mean, you've seen my team. Who makes way in a double game week? Which double game week player makes way for Isak?
All you could do is
Kane, Haaland.
It's Kane or Isak. It's Kane or Isak, and Kane's got Brentford. I don't think anybody's going to bench Kane at home in a home game, are they?
I have to bench one of Isak, Kane, or Haaland in game week 37. So that's why I'm benching Isak. And yes, he plays Leicester, but
you might feel more comfortable as well if Isak plays that Brighton game in midweek, and then Wilson gets 10 minutes off the bench or something, and then you might start to think, well, will Wilson come in? That might make it a bit more comfortable.
But I can't see which I'd play. I mean, if there is an injury or something, then to a double game week player, I wouldn't replace them. I'd replace them with Isak. So I've got the transfers already just sitting on my bench, if you see what I mean. Lewis points out in the chat, Alvarez. So this is a good point. So there will be other people in this position who've got a Newcastle striker or perhaps another striker, and they've got a spare City slot. They perhaps don't want to get a defender. Alvarez could be a good option for game week 37 double, and indeed game week 38. Do you think he'll get minutes towards the end of the season? I mean, significant minutes.
Well, I think he'll get enough minutes to. We saw he can do damage at Fulham. I mean, he didn't get a return at the weekend, but the week before in the double, he did really well. And I think he will. Pep spoke about after that trying to get Haaland, De Bruyne, and him on the pitch at the same time, which happened at the weekend. And if you're looking for explosive kind of very low-owned options for the run-in, I think he's probably one of the better ones, because they're going to manage players like De Bruyne and Haaland now, aren't they? Especially if they advance in the Champions League, which you'd expect them to. Well, I say you'd expect them to. It's if Real Madrid, anything could happen, couldn't it? But if they do get through, then I think it looks like a really good shout.
Okay, let's move on to a live chat. So get your questions in. I will read out as many as I can, and we'll try and answer as many as we can. So if I go up, so Aswin asks, should I play Trent over Estupinan or Botman? Okay, so I'm definitely playing Trent. I'm definitely playing my Brighton defender. I'm definitely playing my Newcastle defender. But if you could only play two out of those three, which of Estupinan or Botman would you bench to play Alexander-Arnold if you wanted to do that? Neither?
I'd play Alexander-Arnold. I would definitely play him. Brighton have got Arsenal and Newcastle away. I don't see a clean sheet there, personally. I'm not even sure if Newcastle's are great from a clean sheet perspective as well. Did he say if you own Trippier? Or
no,
if you own Trippier...
where's he gone? He doesn't mention Trippier. I assume he's just simply going to play Trippier if he owns him, or not if he doesn't.
Maybe Botman then, because I'd really want to play Alexander-Arnold this week, and then I think that you could probably get away with playing Alexander-Arnold, Trippier, and Estupinan. But I don't mind benching Estupinan, but he has got that attacking threat, hasn't he? It creates a lot of chances. Only against Wolves a week ago, he had a couple of big chances where he could have scored himself. So there's always that chance. He's got more of an assist potential and goal threat than somebody like Botman. He might get you a set piece goal, but it's quite unlikely, I think. So I think he's fine to play, even if we don't expect clean sheets from a Stupinan. I think he could pop up with an assist.
Garrick asks, do we prefer, in our search for differentials, back form teams, so differentials within a form team, like Man City or Liverpool or Arsenal, or target the weaker teams like Leicester, Leeds and Southampton when picking a differential? My point of view is last week that question would have also included Everton, and they just hammered Brighton 5-1. Leicester have just scored 3 goals and they have conceded 5 as well. So yes, it is good to back them. Leeds, I don't know. Sam Allardyce, they looked slightly better against Manchester City. So I think I would prefer to back the form teams, good players from good teams. I think Zof coined that phrase on the FPL wire. Good players, good teams. Target them. Because the weak teams, I don't know if they're going to be weak for the last 2 games. Wasn't it Spurs played someone supposedly weak? No, I tell you what, Spurs played Newcastle on the last game of the season when Newcastle went down, I believe, many years ago.
I remember that, yeah.
And Spurs were widely expected to win, and I think they got hammered 5-1.
I think that rings a bell. Yeah.
So Newcastle were an awful team then. So this is what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't. It's hard to categorise who is a weak team. I mean, I guess Southampton would be the weak one, but I don't know whether Leicester are always going to be weak. I don't know whether Leeds are always going to be weak.
It's very hard to predict. I mean, I think picking a player like Alvarez or Mahrez at a team like Man City, who have got that goal threat, get those chances, score the goals, they're obviously good differentials to target. But then you go down to the bottom teams, and at this stage of the season, they get desperate. So if they go 1-0 down, they are going to push everything into getting that goal, and they're going to attack. And we've seen it already over the past.
Nottingham Forest, another one. They would have been in that list.
Yeah,
not now.
Yeah, they're all teams which we don't traditionally associate with a lot of goals, but they're at that point of the season where they've got to go for it. Yeah. And I still think I'd favour players from a team like differential, just for example, Mahrez or something like that. But if you've got a team fighting for their lives, Gibbs White is another differential which we really liked last week. And you see what he can do. He's a great player, and you're not going to go for him now. But that was the fixture at home to Southampton, which was it delivered. I think he got double digits, didn't he?
I mean, I guess the sensible answer is both. Your Alvarez's and Mahrez's plus your Gibbs White. They're the ones to go for. But I mean, I personally, good players, good teams. That's my motto. Yeah.
And as important as that, the opposition, go for those weak defences and those teams which are going to commit bodies forward because they're desperate. Forest, yes, they scored 4, but they conceded 3 last night. They're still not great defences. And the same can be applied to Southampton and teams like that. Everton did look better with Mina at the back. But they're playing Man City this weekend. They're going to struggle to keep them out, aren't they? So.
Yes, definitely. Let's have a look some more though. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce your name. Prabineshwar. I'm going to pretend that's your name. But thanks for that. Do correct me though. Do we think that a -4 is viable for one of Isak or Wilson? He's in a position, so gameplay is where it's important for his. He says he's chasing 15 points in his mini league, so that's his key consideration. I would say you are actually chasing 19 points in your mini league, because if you take a -4, you will be 19 points behind that person. So you're making more. I don't know if you'll get that hit back. So I personally wouldn't. It indicates he's already made one move.
Yeah.
So
if you've got for your captain,
if you've got a McAllister, I think the key thing is do you have someone you can captain? If you've got McAllister, or you've already got one of Isak or Wilson, captain them. But if you don't, maybe a -4. But as I said, you're going to be, if your rival in the mini league is not taking a hit, then you're 19 points down, not 15.
Yeah, we kind of need a bit more information. You kind of need to know who you're playing. I do think the Newcastle forward, I think they'll be heavily back this week. So I think taking a hit for one, if you're going to captain them, it could work. But especially if you're taking out somebody like Watkins. But yeah, it depends. We need kind of a little bit more information, I suppose.
Yeah. So the -4's Campo. I've taken a -4 in the last game week of the season before. If I feel I'm lacking on a certain player, if you don't have either of Isak or Wilson, possibly it could be worth a -4 there. Johnny asks, or Junie asks, is Wilson and Isak an option? How about doubling up for both? I mean, if those have got, say, Greenwood and another striker they're quite happy to get rid of and a bit of money in the bank, that's totally doable, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't mind it. And they've got Leicester after, and that's a good fixture, having seen them in action at Fulham yesterday. So yeah, I don't mind the double up at all. No.
Let's have a look here. Mahomey asks, this game week is not great for Brighton. Would you consider benching them in favour of those with a good single games? Well, that's me. I wouldn't. But you did mention a stupid, maybe a defender, but I wouldn't bench one of their attacking players.
No.
Because it doesn't matter with bad fixtures with Brighton, because they can still score against anyone.
Yeah.
But that's not to say they'll win, but they can certainly still score. Magic69 asks, I have Brighton's Ferguson. Should I start with him ahead of a good single game week option? Yeah, I think so. I think at this stage you're going to get the same answer from veteran managers who used to double game weeks. You always favour the double game week player, even if it costs you, even if it's Duffy and you captain him and he's got Cardiff at home and he gets you 1 point. I will always do that. I will always die on that hill.
He played 45, didn't he?
Yeah.
So he's obviously building his fitness back up. Good player when he starts. He might get one of those fixtures. Do you think he'd start maybe one of those?
I think he'll start one,
Joe?
and I think he'll get around half an hour for another. I think he's an exceptional striker, and so I do think
I'd play him.
I would play him definitely. I mean, he will play. He will get minutes, and definitely a start. He's definitely not going to play at all. Just time for a couple more. Yeah. Also, Abina has got. It's more of a statement, but similar to my benching concerns. So he's going to bench either Alexander-Arnold or Mahrez. God, who would you bench out of Mahrez and Alexander-Arnold? I guess
Mahrez, I think.
Yeah, I guess the fact that I'm benching Grealish over Alexander-Arnold, not a straight benching, but I favour Alexander-Arnold. That would probably answer my question as well, the same way.
It's really hard because I don't think Mahrez probably plays against Real Madrid, no. So you then expect him to come in an Everton game. Everton, I mean, it's still a good fixture for City, isn't it? I suppose if they go 2-0 up, though, we might then see them just kind of control the game and keep the ball and not push for that third, but just to reserve energy a bit, and maybe for Real Madrid. I mean, Mahrez can go and score a brace there, but Alexander-Arnold against this Leicester side, I see assists in that one for him. Yeah, so I'd really want to play him this week.
Yeah. Paul H asked, Mitrovic is back. Is he worth a punt? Have a look back. 40 minutes ago, we discussed that very issue and we said yes, he is worth it. But there are other priorities at the moment. But he is good. He's amongst the good strikers still. FPL Big Head. I have a 50-point lead in my mini league. The guy chasing me is McAllister and I have March. Should I take a hit just to make that swap? He's got a 50-point lead. Yeah. Because then you've still got a 46-point lead. And there's only
if that's all you're concerned about, yeah. I mean,
if you've got,
and if that's what you want to do,
if you've got a 5-point lead, and the guy chasing, who's got McAllister, and you have March, then that becomes more of an issue to consider. But if you've got a 50-point lead, you do what you like. I think.
Yeah, I mean, kind of work out who would play instead of March in your squad, because but if your idea is to beat this person and that is your sole goal rather than looking at rank and things like that, yeah, why not cover it off? Because McAllister is somebody who could rack up double digits, albeit they've got tougher games. We said earlier, Joe, Brighton can score against anyone. They might lose, but they can still score goals. And McAllister's got 2 in his last 2. He's on penalties, on some set pieces. So yeah, why not cover it off?
John Tyner, I'll just end with this one. John Tyner says he says lowest score ever at 22. So he took a -4. He had dunk and steal. I had steal as well, and he's gutted. And then he just says, "Should I say?" I thought he was going to say something. Usually, when you have, because you get these kinds of questions, and people tilt and they go, "Oh, I'm going to take a -12 now to overcome it," and things. And he just does something really sensible. He said, "Should I sell Watkins this week?" Yes, sell Watkins for a Newcastle striker if you haven't got them.
It's a good point, though, isn't it? People always want to overreact to a bad game week and go and make lots of transfers when often you look at your team, they're probably good players that you've got in your team. It's just one of those weeks where it just hasn't fallen for you. And often the best advice is to just maybe just make one transfer if you've got a weak spot, but don't be too rash with it. But yeah, I do think selling Watkins for a Newcastle forward this week makes a lot of sense in most teams.
Yeah, the only thing, I mean, as I always advocate holding off transfers, and I have made transfers early this week, and I think, and I still maintain, the best way, the only sensible way to do that is if you just can't afford the moves you want. And I know that I will sit there on Friday without the money to get a Newcastle striker and replace March with McAllister, and I know that'll happen. So if you're doing that move, think about it and think: is it sensible? Or am I tilting? Am I reacting to that bad game week, or am I making a move based on money, or am I making a move based on getting good players in? But this guy's great. John has just said all of that, and then he's just said something really sensible. Yeah, get rid of Watkins for a Newcastle striker. That would be the sensible way.
Yeah, and I think in your position, Joe, as well, we spoke about it. If you've got a bench which can handle an injury, that makes you much more confident. I think it was Mark who's always said that, he feels that much more confident because he's somebody who does advocate early transfers earlier on in the season to build value, team value. But you feel that much more confident about doing it if you've got that backup player and that good player which you'd be happy to play as your first sub.
Yeah, often with Mark, he would do something like a -8. And it will involve a player that he would bench for the next 2 weeks because he's planning, because he knows that it's the player that everyone's going to want in 3 weeks. And he'd be quite happy to do that. So that's like the opposite of overreacting. It's just that being very careful and planning. Excellent. Well, thanks so much, everyone, with your questions. Sorry we couldn't get to everyone, but we are trying to answer as many as we can. And I will, in those who want to listen back or anything like that with the recorded bit, obviously I'll put timestamps on, and I'll put starts, after the microphone mishap at the beginning, so you don't have to hear that. But thanks a lot for joining us. Do press like, do press subscribe. Do remember as well that all our videos are available as podcasts as well. And Tom, good luck with the game week. Good luck with the double game week. See you again next week.
Thanks, Joe. See you soon.